Okay, so we've gone through the introduction to programming. We've learned all the pillars of computer programming language, like every computer code, the properties of computer code and all that. Now we are ready to go into the JavaScript itself, the language of JavaScript, and we just want to see how it works and what we can do with it and all of that. So technically, this is the first lesson for JavaScript itself as a language. And it should be pretty easier for us right now because we know the basics of our programming language. So JavaScript is no different. You're gonna see the same behaviors as we go through the JavaScript. So the first topic over here says, why is JavaScript important? And even what is JavaScript in the first place? So it is a question that I would want you guys to answer for me. What do you think JavaScript is and why is it important? If you can think of anything, you can say it. And then we can look into the history of JavaScript.
It's a language that is used everywhere, quite universal, and most common.
Yes. Yes, it is the most used programming language out there. Yes. And at the beginning, it was only useful for the front end, but now you can use it at the back end also. And you know, it's used everywhere. Like you have a software, there's gonna be JavaScript in it. You don't have a choice, right? So it's a very powerful language because of that. And it's a powerful language because it is the language of the browser. It's the language of the browser. You can see browsers are on everybody's computers and their phones. JavaScript is the language of the browser. So once there is a browser, there is JavaScript somewhere, you know. So that makes it very, very, very powerful. And you can use it with HTML and CSS to create advanced applications. But mostly they use it to introduce interactivity on the web page. Like you go to the web page, sometimes you hover on a button and then you can see different colors happening. You can use JavaScript to do that. And you can use JavaScript to write HTML code. Like just JavaScript, you can write HTML using it. You can also write CSS using JavaScript. You see, it's a very versatile language, and it's very, very, very important. It's very, very, very useful. You can do a whole lot with it. So once you learn JavaScript, you have to be very bold and confident, and you can walk into any software company with confidence because they will be using JavaScript over there. Okay, so that is why we are learning it. Okay, it's just that powerful. The things that we do with JavaScript, most of them you can only do with JavaScript, right? Especially if you want to create the front-end applications and all these things. JavaScript is the way to go. You cannot use Python or any other language. It's just JavaScript. Okay, so that being said, let's look at the history of JavaScript. So when we talk about the history, we are talking about the beginning of the language and, you know, what phases the language has gone through to get to the point where it is today, right? So you can see that JavaScript is not an old language. It was started in 1995. And what is funny and what is more interesting about the history of JavaScript is that it was written in just 10 days. The language was created in 10 days. Like when I think about it, I don't know how they did it, right? And it was actually created by one person, essentially, you know, Brendan created it in 10 days. Easy. So when you're learning it, always remember that they created it in 10 days, right? So that means that you may be able to learn it faster. But as time went on, they kept adding new things to it and making it behave more like other programming languages. Because by the time JavaScript came on the scene, like I don't know about Python, but I think C# was already there. C++ was already there. There were many programming languages that were already there. Okay. So, and because those languages were there, programmers were used to thinking and doing things in a certain way. So as the time kept going, they were modifying JavaScript to include more functionalities that would make it equally powerful as some of the other languages that are out there, But it's a very, very powerful language. And as you can see, most of the things we do with it, we can only use JavaScript to do. So that is some of the few things I want to mention. But as far as the language JavaScript is concerned, there are versions, okay? There are versions of the language, say E5, E6, that keeps coming up. I'm trying to see if I did mention them here. So yeah, I have the versions over here, ES6. Then the one before this is ES5 over here. So this version of JavaScript, which came out in 2009, was a very significant, it introduced a very significant change to the language. Like, it added a lot of abilities. Actually, the ES6 is the one that was very crazy. Like, they made a lot of changes to the language, right? They added functions, they added classes, they added modules, they added promises. So in the past, JavaScript didn't have classes, right? So if I say classes, that people who are doing the backend, you're dealing with classes all the time. Now you can do classes in JavaScript also. With all these functions, look at how important a function is, right? So all of that were introduced. Maybe there was a function, but this arrow function is a special type of function. And all of that was introduced in the version ES6 and app, which was in 2015. So I just have to tell you that 2015 was a very important year for JavaScript language, because they brought a lot of functionalities into the language and all that. So also, because the language keeps changing, like every year they are bringing a lot of new changes. Sometimes you can have JavaScript language that was written for a version of JavaScript that is no longer being used, right? So as we go down the list, you're going to see so many techniques that many browsers are using to make sure that when you write JavaScript, it's going to be compatible for the browser, right? And all of that. So I just entreat you to go through this history, just read it. And, just for your own, it's just for fun. Go through this for fun, and hopefully you would like the history. Okay, so that being said, we can go to the language itself. So where do we write JavaScript code? Where do we write it? So this is one of the pages that we've looked at in the past. And I think we have to look at it again for the purpose of this lecture. When you want to write JavaScript code, where do you write it? Right? So there are different places where you can write it. The most common one is the JavaScript HTML file. Just create an HTML file and then have the script tag here. So within the script tag, you can write JavaScript over there, right? And you can also create an external file, and then you end it with .js. Once you create a file and then the extension is .js, it means that you're going to put JavaScript code in there. We've seen this before, right? You want to put HTML, then it's .html. You want to put CSS, that's .css. You want to put JavaScript, then it's going to be .javascript. And then you can put all your JavaScript code in the external file, and then you can just link it to the HTML document, right? So this is something we've seen before. Do you guys need me to repeat this, kind of demonstrate it, how this is done?
No.
No, right? Okay. Yeah, so you can also use an IDE. So when I talk about IDE, you know, of course, Visual Studio Code is an IDE. You can write code over here, right? Just, you know, you can write code here as well. Of course, you know, your file, you end it with .js, you can put JavaScript code in here and you can execute it here. You just have to say node. If you write JavaScript code in the IDE, you can go there. The way you execute it, we went through this. Just navigate to the location of the file. So we need to, for us, it's gonna be in the JavaScript folder. So let's just do this, ls cd into JavaScript, ls. So we are within the location where the JavaScript code is, main.js, which is a file that you have to create. Now you just have to say node, and then you can enter the name of the file, and if you execute, it's going to execute the code for you. So this is one way of writing JavaScript code, right? The other ones that I showed above here, you need to do it in the browser. You need a browser here. But if you want to do it just in the IDE itself without a browser, then you can do this. But also there are many places on the internet where you can just jump in and write code, right? Just jump in, code editors, that's what we call it. And the most famous one is repo.it. Repo.it is kind of hard to pronounce this. I think it's repo.it, yeah. So repo, see, you can write Python code. You can write a different type of languages. It's just an IDE that is in the sky for you. You have to create an account. It's in the cloud. Sorry, it's in the cloud or on the cloud, whatever. So you just have to create an account and you can write code. Let me see. Sometimes you probably don't have to create an account even. It looks like we have to just log in. Choose any account and just log into it. So yeah, it's an IDE that is in the cloud. You don't have to install it on your computer. You click on create repo. You probably have to give it a name, say my JavaScript. Of course, you can also you have end with .js. You can go to YouTube and learn how to use this. Okay, so they want a template. Learn how to use this from YouTube. So this one, they are just searching for templates. I just want to write code. So let's see. I've done a couple of interviews over here. So the interface keeps changing every time. So let's see. I just want to. So my repos, you can create your own code. So this is, yeah, this is a code that I may have written a long time ago. Yes, yes. You see, this is a code that I wrote a long time ago, you know. So if you want to write code over here, you just have to determine what language you want to write, and that's it. So this is C# over here. So yeah, just write your code. So you want to write JavaScript, you can just create a repo for JavaScript, and then you can write JavaScript code over there. You know, stuff like that. So, I mean, the only difference is you don't need to have this installed on your computer. That's all. And this is not the only online IDE out there. There are a few of them. What are some of them? I'm trying to think of any. So you can also Google online IDEs for, say, JavaScript. Mostly, they are compatible for many different languages. So this is one of them. You just come here, you can start writing your code. you can see this code is familiar, right? Console.log. If you execute run, it's gonna print over here. You can just write any code you want via, I mean, this is JavaScript, so you write JavaScript code. Right? If you want to write other language, you can change it, right? That's what I'm saying. So var greetings equals hello tech masters, and then you can just print it, right? There are many, things you can do, but at the end of the day, it's all about what you're trying to do. So just execute, just printing hello tech masters. You can find any code that you want on the internet, put it here, it will execute for you. But this one, you have to, after you leave, if you don't save it, you will not find your code again. If you want to be able to find the code, you need to create an account and save it so that whenever you come back, it will still be there for you. So that's that. That is that. And Node.js is also an IDE, This is one other way you can write code, but this is done in the terminal, so you don't want to worry about it right now. So backend focused. So you come to my site, you have this tutorial over here. You can go through it and try to practice writing JavaScript code in all of these ways. But ultimately, you just pick one way and go with it. For us, we're going to stick to the first three, but we want to build web applications. So we need to run our code in the web. Okay, so let's see what let's go to the next topic if there are no questions. Okay, so this is about the syntax and variables. Syntax and variables. So this is something we've seen before, but this time we need to take a closer look. We have statements and expressions, right? So this is day 4, and I'm going to remove everything that we saw. Just remove this, and then we have an empty file. So this thing keeps coming up. It's a little crazy. So this is the script file. We can put code in here. So this one, I can just turn it into a comment, and then I'll have no issues. But I want to remove it because so let's see why is there an error here. They want me to use single quotation. I'm just trying to indent the code. So they want me to use single quotation here for the string. So the first lesson of JavaScript over here is talking about the syntax of JavaScript. Syntax. So what is syntax of a language? Can you guys help me? What is a syntax? So if I say the syntax of a certain language, what is it in your view? What does it mean to you?
A line of code.
Line of code, yes, it's a syntax, yeah. But also we are talking about the grammar of the language, right? The way the language is written, right? The grammatical structures of the language. Like, what does a line of code in JavaScript look like? Something like that, right? Because this line of code in other languages could be different, right? But for JavaScript, this is how they do it. So that's what we mean by the syntax of JavaScript. And once you understand the syntax, then you have the confidence to write the code, right? Because you know the syntax, you know the behavior of the code. But of course, the syntax depends on what you're doing. Are you dealing with functions? Are you dealing with a loop? Are you dealing with just statements, expressions, right? So syntax is a broad word over here. But what about variables, right? What is a variable? So over here, they are telling us the syntax is made up of what? Statements and variables, right? So there are statements and variables. We know what a statement is. What is a statement? A complete line of code, right? Any complete line of code is a statement. And a variable is a place where we store values or data types, right? So this is, we are going down to the basics, essentially, right? But this is important, very, very important. And it is important because when you are adding two variables, you want to make sure that you can add them. You cannot just add two things that are not compatible. So in math, there's something called like terms and unlike terms. So this is a very important concept also in programming. And it's all about manipulating data, and the data, you store the data in a variable. So during the manipulation, you want to make sure that you are mindful of the type of data you are dealing with, right? So I guess one more thing I have to say is that in JavaScript, I think we're gonna get to it. So we all agree that this is a statement, it's a complete line of code. If you watch the introduction video, you would also understand it. Is that we tackled it as well. So let's see what else I have to mention. So JavaScript has a lot of data types. So make sure that you understand what a data type is also, right? Because you have the variable, you want to put a data there. You need to know what type of data it is, right? Because if you don't know the type of data, then you don't know what to do with it. Especially if the data is a number, then you know you can increase it, or you can increase a number. And you can multiply a number. You can do many things with numbers, but you need to know that the data is a number first. And if the data is not a number, but a string like this, then you have to know that you cannot just do math with this. You can't do math with a string like this. If you're trying to do math with it, you want to square this value, then there will be a problem. You cannot say, so now, because I showed you that the var keyword has a problem because of the scopes, we're going to be using the let and the const going forward. I'm going to try to stick to the let and the const as much as possible. I cannot say let square equals my string times my string. So, oh, normally we close at 1. So the time is we're about to close pretty soon. Okay, let's try to finish this concept and then we'll close. Maybe we'll try to finish this and then probably close, okay? I cannot believe it's been 2 hours already. Oh my God, really? The time goes by so fast, right? So what type of data is this? We are gonna close very soon, friends. So let's cheer up. Let's cheer up. Yeah. So what type of data is this? A string, right? Can I multiply two strings like this? It's not advisable. It doesn't make sense. What do you mean by hello world times hello world? It's crazy. But if you know that the value is a number, then you can multiply it. Like now I can use this times this. See, these are the little things that will trick you, right? Especially if you try to explain any code. These are the little things that's gonna trick you. So just be mindful of that. So what type of data is this? It's a string. What type of data is this? It's a number. Now, what type of data is this?
String.
Sorry?
Is it a string or Boolean?
It's a Boolean. Yes. So what is a Boolean data type?
True or false?
True or false? Yes. Yes. It only stores true or false, right? Also the same as 0 or 1. So we're going to learn about values that will evaluate to true and values that will evaluate to false. Like there are certain numbers, they always will give you true. Then there are certain type of numbers that would always give you false. So that concept, they call it truthy, and falsy. And falsy. We may, I think I have a note for that later on. We're going to handle it. But this type of data is Boolean, and it's a different type of data. That's the point I want you guys to understand. Boolean is not a number and it's not a string. It's true or false. And you're going to use that in if statements a lot. If this is true, then even while loops, all of that, you're going to use a lot of Booleans over there. So now this is another type of data in JavaScript, null or null. So null, what does null mean to you?
There's nothing inside of it. It's not going to return anything, right?
Yep, it's not gonna return anything. There's nothing there. So nothing is also a data type. And the way you get to nothing, like right now, if I create this variable, I just initialize the variable. What is the word? I declare the variable. Did I put anything in there? No.
Mm-hmm.
So if I print this here, I'm gonna get null. Null means that there's nothing there. It's empty. So that's one of the use cases of this one. Now, what about undefined or undefined, I think? So undefined is clear, like you haven't defined it. The number is the thing, the variable doesn't exist, right? For a variable to exist, you have to define it, right? Or declare it. So undefined means it doesn't exist. Like right now, if I want to do, let me just write what I said, console.log my variable. This is gonna print null, okay. Now, let me set my variable. So when you're typing to, it's also helping you, equals whatever we had there before. We're just gonna demonstrate these little things I'm talking about. So now it's gonna give me 42, right? If I try to print, say, if I try to print something called tech mastery, do we have this defined anywhere in here? No, it doesn't matter at the bottom. Let's look at the top. It's not there. So it's not going to, this is going to give me the undefined. And it's really an error also. This will error out. It's going to throw an error, And there are so many ways in which a variable can end up becoming undefined. And as we go on, we're going to see some of them. So yeah, so essentially these are the data types in JavaScript. Like they don't have a lot of data types, right? So actually these are the primitive data types. So there's something called primitive data types. Primitive is just the basic data types, right? Basic. Then they have advanced data types, and that is object, which we're going to be looking at later on. JavaScript objects, right? It's a big, and then, objects, you can use them for arrays and stuff like that, a list of collection of data. So, of course, we know what operators are, right? I'm still on the same page. Operators, if you want to do math, what does this one do? This is comparison operator, right? Let me ask, what is the difference between difference between 1 second. 5 equals. So we'll end it as soon as we finish this page, okay? We'll just end it here. The difference between this and then let me use some variables also. It's better, small. If I say this equals 5, and then if I say this double equals 5, then if I say this triple equals 5. What is the differences between these things?
So
What am I doing here? I'm doing assignment operator. Assignment. So this is assignment operator. What is assignment operator? It means you are just assigning whatever is on the right side to whatever is on the left. But what is this one doing? This is not assignment. This is comparison. I'm sorry?
No, I was going to say equal to.
Equal to. So, but what are you doing? You're comparing whether they are the same, right?
Right.
So, but this one is loose equal, loose comparison. Or let's say loose equality. Loose equality. So over here, if you have 5 equals a string of 5, this is number 5. Is it equal to the string of 5? This is going to give you true. This will evaluate you true. Like what I mean is that assuming this variable has this value stored in it. Let me just try to be compatible. Like let me put this underneath because I don't want to confuse them. Let's assume that my variable has the value of a string of 5. So this value is a string of, it's actually, in some languages, you can call it a character because it only has one letter in there. It could be a number or a letter. But in JavaScript, it's a string 5. And then this is the number 5. If you compare whether these two are equal, it's going to say yes. It's going to say yes. But if you use triple equal sign is also the same. This is also comparison. It's also comparison. You're comparing the two values, but this one is a strict comparison. So this one gives a lot of power to JavaScript, actually. If you do triple equal, then this is going to become false. This is going to become false. And this concept, we need to make sure we understand it deeply. But what is the difference between this and this? Do you guys remember? Because we may have mentioned it in the past. Do you remember what the difference is? I've already told you this is a strict comparison. Okay, let me help you. So over here, we are just, sorry, you want to try?
Is it because you can use the exclamation mark to say that it's not true? Like,
that's not the case. You can use it anywhere. See, exclamation is, what is the exclamation sign? We call it not, right? So this one is, we are checking if they are equal. If you want to say if they are not equal, you just say not equal. And the same here also. They are different operators, right? It's just operator. You need to learn these operators. It's very important. And I have a very powerful tutorial for it here that you can look. So it has nothing to do with this. If in any case, this and this are doing the same thing, it's just the opposite of one another, right? The opposite of one another. So I'll tell you what it does. When you are comparing these numbers, what options do you have? You can compare the value itself, the data, the value. Is the value not 5, 5? They are all the same, 5 and 5. So the value is the same. This is value comparison. But you can also check the type comparison. What is the type of this? It's a string, right? What is the type of this? It's a number. So if you are using this equality sign or this operator, it doesn't check the type. It's only checking the values. And the values is 5 and 5, so that's the same. So this is going to give you true. But if you use triple equal sign, you are saying that I want to do strict comparison. And so it's not only going to check the value, it's also going to check the type. So the values are the same, but the types are not the same. And therefore, this is not true. It's going to be false. Right? Of course, this is not equal to that. So the opposite is always going to be true. You know what I mean? You see the difference now?
Yep.
So they said that you can take a horse to the riverside, but you cannot force it to drink, right? I can show you guys these concepts, but I can't force you to learn it. But these are very, very important stuff, and they are basic also. But as we go forward and we start doing applications and all, we're gonna start implementing, applying these things. Maybe at that point you guys would appreciate it. But I want to encourage you to go back to the site and try to go through the operators, right? The whole note is here. Sorry, my whole note is right here. I'm not hiding anything, right? So the operators, you can go back to the introduction here. It's a very comprehensive tutorial on the operators, right? And what they do, see? So it's checking the operands and the type. And just go through them. They're very important. I cannot say this enough, okay? Because you can see that code is made up of statements, and the statements are made up of expressions. Expressions are made up of operators and numbers. That's all, right? And then the functions and the loops are just an advanced concept, just reusing, just a way of writing the code. But at the end of the day, you have a statement, and that's composed of expressions. Expressions are composed of data and then operators. Okay. So in JavaScript, I don't know if I repeated myself with the operators. I didn't repeat it because we saw it, right? We saw it up there. So we went through the syntax. I think we are done with the syntax. This note here, try to go through this, right? So this is a much more comprehensive tutorial, very good tutorial. It's telling you the data types, right? The primitives, and all of that. If you want to know what the type of the variable is, there's this thing here, type of variable. This is one of the things that they give you, right? You don't, it's within the global scope. It's a function that has already been written for you. So you have a variable, you can just say type of variable. And it's gonna tell you what a type is, and stuff like that. So this is defined. Why are they saying undefined? I'm expecting this to be maybe now instead, because you define the variable, but you didn't put anything in there. So this shouldn't be undefined. But you can copy this code and execute and see the output, But when we meet, I think we'll continue from here when we meet anyway. So this time we are not really jumping anything. Any node that I have up here, like up to somewhere here, we have to really go in details, in depth, and make sure that we have these little things also understood, because they're going to become complicated as we keep going. But guys, I believe in you. I know you can do it. We're going to meet again tomorrow. Maybe you shouldn't wait for me. You can, if you have a minute, just try to, the notes are here, read it. If not, I'll see you guys tomorrow. So I don't have any homework. Because I believe you can do your own learning. Okay. So Of course, we wrote a code that we didn't execute. We didn't execute it, but you know, it doesn't matter because I believe you guys, you know the output anyways. You can understand what the output would be and all that. So yeah, I told you check mastery is not defined, so it's giving you an error. But oh, see, so it's true. This will give you undefined. So you declared it, but you didn't define it. Oh, I know why it's saying undefined. Yes, yes. Because in JavaScript, this variable, we don't know what it is. The only way you know the variable is by the data that you assign to it. Once you assign a number into this variable, then we know that it's going to store a number. So if you don't assign anything, unfortunately, you're getting undefined. It's crazy. But again, that's not an error. It's better. But this one here is going to give you an error because you didn't declare it at all. It's not declared anywhere. So these are the techniques that you have to just try to play with. This is a much better tutorial, this one here. So when we meet next week, we'll go through it one more time and then just keep going. Any questions for me?
No, thank you.
No problem. I'll stop the recording and I'll see you guys tomorrow, same time. And I believe, you know, if we spend 2 hours doing this, we're gonna go very far tomorrow. But always don't forget, this is my goal, the DOM manipulation. This is my goal. That's the place where I really want us to get to. Where you are writing HTML, you are writing CSS using JavaScript. So that's where you're gonna really enjoy. Okay.
Okay.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good day. Thank you.
You're welcome. You too. Bye-bye.